how are you finding Nepal, your stay at Nepal?
I'm always from Nepal. I was born and bred in Chitwan. So for some years I wasn't here around. But back then, more recently, well, when I say more recently, it's going back now 8 years, I try and put together something back in Nepal. It was difficult in terms of culture, practice, and experience. But as you go along, when you try something, when you really have something in your head that you want to go ahead and do it, you find other things not so important that are hurdles. So you look at the positive side of it and you take it from there, basically. And you can have a long list of things that you didn't like, but you rather want to be more focusing on what you like or what you want to do and what you can do.
Okay. Let's start from giving a brief introduction about you yourself, like regarding I know you on a personal level as well, but for the audience, you can talk about what you actually do and about your profession and everything.
I'll begin with my name to simplify it. Shashi Pathak, from Chitwan, as mentioned earlier. I was born and bred in Chitwan. I did my schooling in Chitwan. I don't have very, very interesting story going back my old days. I did come from a very basic school background, in fact, a very basic state school. My primary school was like a story type of school where when there is raining that we need to go home because there was no good sort of roof. And most of the time PN used to come and teach us rather than the teachers. I started my English classes ABCD from class 4, you wouldn't imagine. That's how I started from, and I struggled quite a bit when I realized that I needed to improve my communication, especially in terms of the English skills. So I did offer some additional effort on that, and gradually I improved on it when I was doing actually my university level, bachelor's and the master's around, starting from the +2 equivalent. So that's how it was going back school. But our school, the secondary school, despite being government school, was relatively good in the context. Remember Mahavir Pun sir?
Oh, yeah.
We all know. He used to be our teacher.
Oh.
Dhananjay Pathak, he used to be my English teacher. If I know something about English, I would definitely want to remember and give him a great credit. He used to be my class teacher as well.
Okay.
So I did learn some basics of the discipline as well from him, and that's how about the school. I was relatively good student though, from the start, very hard working as well as maybe relatively intelligent to some extent. Then I moved on to Kathmandu to do my college and university, and after completing my master's degree, you wouldn't believe it, then I did my ACCA.
Oh, you did?
It's the slightly other way around. Luckily, I did my master's degree in good time, well below around the age of 22 years. So I did have some time there in my favor.
So you started ACCA at 22?
Well, after that actually.
After that?
After MBA, I did do something else for some time to make my money, to make my survival. And then I went and did ACCA. That's how it worked. And I paid the ACCA bill myself. Therefore, I needed to work sometimes to make money, to make some saving, and take it from there. So there was a little gap, not a lot, but little gap. Probably a couple of years gap after my master's degree.
So after that, you went to UK?
That's right. That's how it worked. I'll tell you, at that time when I was thinking of doing my ACCA, there was no college in Nepal.
Oh.
Going back quite a while, didn't want to go back that historical, but I needed to go somewhere, either Malaysia or Singapore. Around or UK. Obviously, I was thinking of going to UK. Actually, when I was doing my master's degree, I did have in my mind that I want to go to UK after my master's degree and try and do my ACCA there. When I went there, obviously a different set of a struggle started, different lifestyle started altogether. There wasn't something that you may be expecting from here. So it took me a good few years to try and bring it to order for myself in terms of financial and in terms of the other things as well. And I made some money, couple of years, and did the savings, and then straight went on to the college and started ACCA. as a full time, because I was an international student at the time, so I needed to go full time. So I was working part time and studying sort of full time.
So you work as a part time and studied ACCA in UK, right?
That's
So
correct.
you've been like, as we are talking off the year, like it's been a decade being in the UK, right? So I just wanna talk a little bit more about the working culture in the UK, and like maybe like let's compare it with Nepal, because like in terms of maybe like professionalism, what's in your head at this moment?
Um, I think that's actually a good point to talk around, especially when you were mentioning about relating that to context in Nepal. One of the things I find, well, I wouldn't say difference to begin with, is the sense of responsibility.
Okay.
When I was working there, everybody, including obviously myself, there was always an element of sense of responsibility, and obviously sense of urgency when needed. When you go to the work, you work 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever hours, but the primary bit there was trying to do what you meant to do, serving the client, completing the work that you have been given. So when I'm leaving the home at 5 or 6 or 7 p.m. in the evening, I always have a feel, oh, I have done this today, which is a good thing. It gives you a learning as well as that sense of urgency, sense of responsibility, and you are going to progress from there on the next day. So every day I take it as a learning as well as serving the client.
Okay.
Plus, let me give you a simple example. If an office starts 9 o'clock, nobody tries at 9 o'clock. They try before 9 o'clock. They try to get to the office by say 8:30 or 8:45, and then have 5 minutes rest, go to washroom, have their hand washed, maybe make a cup of tea, and by 9 o'clock they have their desk ready and the client's file open.
So it's
You
not
started working.
like 9 a.m. you reach the office and do sort of
Yeah,
this.
people would give enough attention to their work.
Okay.
Basically, they don't try to cheat the work. We don't try that. And that will get reflected in your performance appraisal as well. One of the bigger part I would always mention about work is having a regular appraisal. When I say regular appraisal, I mean the objective appraisal. And obviously that appraisal will relate to your pay rise as well. And that's a very common practice in Nepal. Sorry, I mean in UK. But when I relate this to Nepal, because I have been working in Nepal partly, I did come to Nepal about 8 years back to set up a tax department of one of our office in London. And I realized one thing missing to begin with is that sense of responsibility. We did have 10 to 6 office here, and I can find that as soon as 6 o'clock turns up, people are rushing to start and go, which is nothing wrong. But what you have done on that day by 6 o'clock is the important bit. And by the way, my calling name is Sam at work, and I used to feel that, okay, I've done my bit 10 to 6, now it is Sam sir's work. He could finish or he could tidy up and send it to the client. That sort of a tendency I found. And also the issue of turnover. People, if they didn't like something, they just say, sir, I'm not coming from tomorrow.
Oh.
Even there is 1 month notice in contract, they are not really following that. They are not really respecting that. Sometimes even they are sending a text and saying, sir, I'm not coming from tomorrow. That I find not very professional as well as ethical. But having said that, there is a great improvement going on. I can see in Nepal, the young students, young members are really getting to a career ladder. They are becoming a young managers, and they are doing very well. I can see the trends are improving. It obviously comes with time. And one more thing I would like to add is here, sometimes we are not comparing like with like. And the experience of UK and Nepal may not be directly comparable.
Yeah.
But I can see the improvement is there in terms of work culture. When I say improvement, I'm talking about obviously the private organizations. I'm not referring to something else, public or the state. Therefore, we do have hope here. We do have potential here. I can see people from Nepal are working now all over, despite being from here, not only on IT and some other areas as well.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point.
Speaking of global village now.
That's
you know,
right.
like you
Actually, it's coming up as a very good global.
Exactly.
I do know very young students, young members around the age of 20, 22, 23. They are working well. They are making good money as well as good career and good presence, not only locally but also internationally. That is a very good sign. And I actually salute them, to be very honest. At that age, to be able to do that from here, despite the limitation here, despite the difficulties here we have in terms of the infrastructure sometimes, for example, the power issues, the internet issues, the strike issues. Well, some of them are improving, and very much thanks to Kulman sir, who made life possible. I do have very difficult days when I first came here around 8 years back. There used to be up to 18 hours load shedding. I used to even bring petrol from Bharatpur in my own vehicle and run a generator here and run the office. That experience as well we did have. But now when I say that, it sounds like a story.
Yeah.
And very thankful to someone like Kulman sir.
Thank you. That's the days back then in like when there was no electricity and everything, we have to rely on the other source of energy. That was like quite painful, right? If especially for the office as well, they have to manage all the expenses and everything. That overhead would go up, right? Since you work as an tax consultant, right, more of like you are specializing on an international tax consulting, right? And you have like quite decent years of experience as well. Since the idea of this podcast is to like give some insights on more on finance and taxation, business and entrepreneurship, right? More around the the umbrella of the word finance. And absolutely, taxation is one of the thing that comes when you talk about finance, right? First of all, before moving to the taxation thing, what is being financial literate to you in your personal opinion?
Let me be not technical. I know you are a technical gentleman too, and myself. Let me try to be general here.
Yeah, sure.
I do remember one word. We all know that. Value for money. In Nepali, I always like this word. Paisa chineko manche. Sometimes we use that phrase in a slightly negative sense. But in my opinion, that's absolutely correct thing. Value for money is something we always need to be aware of. What we are spending on and how much, and obviously what for. This matters from a very basics. One simple example, every time you go to a supermarket, they will do a computerized billing. Yeah? Do you check that bill?
Most of the time, yes. What's it in the...
That's what is needed. Number of times we think, oh, it's a computerized billing, it should be right. But it won't be. So a simple thing is that ask the bill or learn a habit of asking for a bill if somebody don't offer. Number one. Number two, you always check the bill if it is right. When you receive a payslip, for example, for your monthly income, did you check your gross income, your tax, etc.? Sometimes there may be error, you wouldn't even realize it. I do have that experience. I don't want to go into the detail, but that happens. Number one. Number two is priority. In terms of spending, priority. Let me give you one very recent example, in fact slightly painful too. A gentleman around age of 24, he was living for Australia to do his master's degree, and his dad was struggling to put together money for his fees. He did have a decent bike, the only bike in his home, and he and his dad used to use that bike. Around the time when he was going, he sold that bike for 2 lakhs. Actually more than that, but he sold it for 2 lakhs. His dad actually wanted that bike because he didn't have one, but he sold it, and he spent 150,000 of that on a mobile and 50,000 on a laptop. A student around the age of 23, 24, going for a master's degree around 15 or 18 months, full-time master's degree in Australia, is spending 50,000 on laptop and 150,000 on mobile. Here is the priority. Here is what I call is the selection of your money on not right thing, on a more appropriate thing in the context. What he should have done. In fact, his dad was really complaining with me about that. He didn't want that bike sold because he wanted to use it. Now see the sense here. I feel, in fact, some painful about that. I did help a bit. That's why I remember this story not long ago. Now you can tell where people are moving. Now I relate this to that paisa chine, value for money. If you have a lot of money, you don't talk about money. We talk about money because we don't have a lot of money, and there would never be a lot of money anyway, because there is no benchmarking that.
Exactly.
Next is, if I say budget, that sounds too technical. I want to simplify that. Some sort of planning. Very recent, Dasai, I and my mom sat down just before Dasai per gift thing, per dakshina. Remember? Dasai gift. And we sort of worked on it very practically. How many of our closer family? How many of our wider family members? And who are the potential guests? There's never going to be right, but as long as you have some ideas, it works. And then we said, okay, per whom we're supposed to be putting X amount in the envelope, and so on. For example, my mom was saying, oh, join chori aununcha, nati natina aununcha, etc. And for them, how much he wanted to actually put it in the envelope. I asked her, and she said yes. Okay, based on that, we made a basic calculation, and we try and make that money as well. The new notes. We went to the bank. Obviously, bank didn't offer our bank. Therefore, we try and find alternatives. And we did buy some envelope and put those money into those envelope. So we got some ideas how much money we need.
Okay.
That helps. It sounds not a lot, but on an everyday thing, there are many instances like this. And this will also help to arrange the money. I didn't have money at the time, so I needed to try and find something equivalent to that. And that obviously did work. Obviously not 100%, but it perfectly worked.
Okay.
Always try and pay by some sort of online banking, which is very common recently, like QR. The value of this is that you have some record. What I'm saying is an element of financial literacy is actually the record keeping. When you do have records and when you look at it, you realize, oh my God, I have spent so much money on this. I didn't realize it. But if you pay by cash and if you don't have bill, you'll actually miss it out. And when you go back and try and put together where did I spend my 10,000, which I did have in my pocket last week, you wouldn't actually be able to find more than like 7,000-8,000. So that means having the habit of some sort of a structure in terms of asking for bill, in terms of checking bill, in terms of some sort of planning will help. Understanding the finance and prioritizing, more importantly, prioritizing. One more point on this, what we call is control of spending. We don't sometimes take it too seriously. I do have a colleague for many years now. Back in London, we used to work together for quite some time, again going back decade. A good guy from Greece. He used to be a HR partner there.
Okay.
And he is the one who used to check the credit card statement of every other partners and the senior members.
Okay.
And he used to query, what did you spend this on? What did you spend that on? If something is not usual for the business. And everybody used to think, he's a very stingy guy and all that. But remember, that is his rule. Someone has to do that. Within the family or within the business, someone has to have that role. Otherwise, who is going to control that spend? If everybody starts spending, then there would be nothing left after some time. Therefore, that control mechanism has to be respected. We wouldn't like that person, but we'll have to accept it. We'll have to respect it. We'll have to acknowledge it. It's a part and parcel of individual, family, and it goes without saying, even more importantly, for the business.
Okay.
Thank you.
So these are your insights regarding how you think of financial literacy.
Yeah, in very simple terms, if I want to extend for 2 more minutes, if I take it to the business,
okay,
now, what is even more important is make your record keeping more structured.
And compliant as well, right?
Compliance. Because for the business, it is a mandatory requirement to have record keeping.
Exactly.
I'm not saying you put a sophisticated software, you have to have a formal accountant or bookkeeper to begin with, but at least have to have some sort of a basics in terms of record keeping. Like have a simple day book. Write everything that you have on your day. on that book? Income, expenses, payment, receipts. There is a difference between obviously income and receipt, but that's not something that we're discussing further here. That way, and also retain those receipts, those invoices. If you don't have a regular bookkeeping system, no worries. Have a box, have a bag, dump those bills there so that it is there, you can go back and refer to when needed. Even something as simpler, you bought something, you didn't like it, you want to return it. Do you not need invoice?
Yeah, we need.
Yeah.
That's
Even
a
for
proof
that,
of purchase,
exactly.
right?
Even for that purpose, you need to ask for the invoice.
Exactly.
Looks like simple, but have the habit. Sometimes what we do these days is we just pay by QR and it's just go and say thank you. We don't ask for the bill. You never know what was the bill made up of. In fact, I do have one experience that I paid the QR and then I asked for the bill because I just felt this amount looks bigger than what we ordered. And I found there are two items, bigger items, not we ordered, from some other table added to ours.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of money. And the guy actually returned that money on cash.
Yeah. But if have that been scenarios is like you just walk away by paying the QR, then you would be paying for like two items that you never ordered.
Yeah, and that was a lot of money. And that is a simple process that you order something, you pay, and you ask for the bill. That is nothing difficult and that is nothing unusual. But we need to learn to build this habit gradually from the very start, from the very young age. And it comes to a business, this is even more important because the mandatory requirement gets added there. And obviously this will have implication on tax as well, as you touched base earlier.
Exactly, right. So the thing you mentioned earlier about how you think being financial literate is like on a day-to-day basis, you keep the recording things. For business is mandatory for sure, like regarding the compliance and everything, but for an individual as well, like you go to a bank or you go to a shopping mall, right? You purchase thing, you just need to make sure that all the amounts, that's whatever is written on the MRP, the maximum retail price, it must be there.
Yeah.
No one should charge more than that.
Yeah.
On any circumstances.
Yeah.
So
and you even won't realize sometimes that you may have picked a pack worth half a kg, and on the bill you never know there may be 755 or 750 gram or 1 kg.
Yeah.
You never know it.
Exactly.
Without you looking into the bill, you wouldn't realize it. Something simpler in terms of financial literacy. Obviously, we can go into far too detail and the technical side of it. But in more general terms, being aware of the money being spent is what I call as financial literacy. And arranging that fund is another part. Something that you're going to spend, how can you back up? Do you have savings? Do you have income to support that? Or you're going for a temporary borrowing? Or you're going for a loan? And if you're going for a loan, what is the interest? Are you able to service the interest?
Exactly.
And now even there is a lot of discussion going around in the country about this, what do you call meter interest? Yeah. So especially when you are going to incur the cost of fund, cost of money, you need to be even more aware in terms of the financial literacy. Because if you have your own money, it may not be that expensive. But if you are borrowing, then that is going to be even more expensive because of the stress behind it of making the payment or repayment in future together with servicing the interest. And given the trend of rising in interest rate, you're talking about more cost associated with your money.
Exactly, right. So I just wanna have a query, right, regarding like in terms of Nepal, like the saving culture and everything. You know it, right? Like how it because you have like a list of like high worth net individuals, and you have worked with clients as well on an individual basis. Like what are their mindset regarding the idea of saving their money for like future, or maybe for saving some sorts of money for a rainy day? How they think is like because if I'm not wrong, like in the UK you get paid fortnightly or weekly basis. Most of
it depends on what you do and where you work. There may be weekly, there may be 2 weekly, there may be 4 weekly, and generally monthly.
Right.
In the professional roles, generally, if you're working on a regular basis, that's going to be monthly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for an individual working earning weekly, is it like you earn some sort of money in 1 week and you spend that on the other week, and then again it's like filling up your a petrol tank or something like that, or how the mindset is in the UK people?
Okay. In terms of saving culture, here the difference come into play. If you compare Nepal against UK, for example, we do have, and including India, we do have some form of saving culture, what we call jugaad, yeah, and that works for us because that's how it has been working. That's how we are learning. Our parents did so much hard work, made some money, saved some money, spent on our education and well-being, right? Looking at UK, they have this slightly different practice. First, their government provides lot of support. For example, almost free education,
Yes.
free healthcare almost. When I say free, obviously subject to conditions. And if you really dying hungry, the council will help out. If you are really living on a street, no home, the council will help out. Council means like here what we call municipality
office
type of. Therefore, their culture is not so much of the saving. In general, they do earn and they spend. Here we have difference. We always think about more future than today. They probably think more of today than future because of the arrangement and culture and practice. See, in Nepal, the holiday culture is relatively new. If I ask my dad and mom when they would have gone for their holiday, I wouldn't be able to recall apart from any sort of a religious or holidays related around that. For example, going to Brindavan or something. And even there, they are residing in the temple and spending as little as possible than staying in the hotel, for example. But in Europe, including UK, they have that culture of going to holiday, no matter whether they are rich or relatively poor. That's their practice. And a lot of things are provided by the government, especially for the kids' education. And for the arrangement as well. For example, even kids, when they go to university, there is money needed.
Yeah.
But the government has the arrangement of the student loan. So a lot of the students actually would go and study on a student loan. It has good and bad. That's not part of the discussion today. But that's how the financial arrangement works.
Okay.
Whoever are rich, relatively richer, they may fund their kids to go to the university in terms of fee and the other maintenance and the living cost.
Okay.
But generally, the saving culture is very different. They do have more of what I call is spending culture than the saving culture. Plus, there's one more thing. There's so much areas that you can go and spend. That's the other thing. And the life is expensive there too, unlike here. Well, again, in the given context, we do have expensive life here as well.
Yeah.
That's not where actually having the main agenda for the discussion. This is where the culture difference come into play. But the life is going on.
Okay.
They are having their life going on well, and we're also having our life going on well here. So that's fine.
But to conclude, it's like especially in the Asian, like the southeastern region, like Nepal and India and Bangladesh, they say for future, like keeping up the concept is like they have to look after their retirement thing, if about their paying their medical bills and everything. But in the maybe in the western part, maybe in UK, since all the arrangement has been put in place in prior regarding the insurance thing and free education, free health to some condition, because of that they spend like freely. They
Correct.
enjoy the life.
Correct, in a way. You can say enjoy the life, but obviously, again,
It's very
what is enjoyment is different thing. Different people would have a different definition to the enjoyment, but you're partly right here.
But the thing is like but the backstory is what I know. Apparently, it might be like because they pay more taxes.
coming onto that.
Exactly, because all the arrangement that has been put in place regarding the future things, like regarding the future like healthcare facility, maybe like free of education and other service, is all because of the hard-earned money. And but when they get paid in the cash, I mean to say like after deducting all the taxes, they get quite lesser, maybe like compared to the, if we just compare the taxation in Nepal or the Asian countries and the Europe, it is okay to say like it's the tax is more expensive in the western part compared to the Asian.
Thank you for this question, Ankit. Let me take it to a slightly different perspective.
Sure.
When you say tax, obviously this is the area I could probably talk days, weeks, and months, but
Yeah.
let me try and summarize that into
More generalized.
more general and within few minutes. Everything has been developed with a robust system back there.
Okay.
So over these whatever many years, they would have tried to close all the tax loopholes, and they have also built the system more robust, more semi-automatic, and there are a lot of other areas, including the information system, including the exchange of information for taxes. One thing. Two, because of that, there isn't anyone who is outside the UK tax net who is residing there, mostly there and thereabout. When you talk about the headline tax rate, if you remember very recently, I did have this mentioned in the LinkedIn post. Nepal has the highest 39% personal income tax rate from this year, thanks to Dr. Mahat. And in UK, it's 45%, plus 2% NIC. So if you compare 45% against 39%, you may not be talking a lot. But what works well is capturing the taxpayers.
Okay.
And also, I always want to add this point, not as a tax advisor, but as a general public, that when you are paying tax to the government, you naturally expect something back. No matter whatever you say, you can be a theorist, you can talk a lot about saying, oh, tax is a liability, this is something you're doing for your country and all that. That's more of a theory. But in practice, when you are writing a check out of your pocket to the government, you do have a small pain. Again, I'm not talking about tax advisor here. Therefore, you do have some sort of expectation, whether you like or not. In the UK, I think to a greater extent, the government did fulfill this expectation. Think about COVID. There was really hard times. I was there partly in COVID time in UK. I can see the government was really trying hard to save the businesses. They did possibly everything they could do in terms of supporting businesses, returning money, providing tax credits, providing other credits, other supports and all that. But after that, they increased the corporation tax rate. The corporation tax actually meant to go down before COVID. That was their plan. But after the COVID, because the government's money actually spent back to the businesses and the public, they couldn't actually carry on sustaining with the lower corporation tax rate. So they decided to increase to 25%. So quite
corporation
a lot.
tax is basically the tax rate for the companies out
Correct.
there, right?
In brief.
Brief, yeah.
It used to be to 19, meant to go down, but it went other way around.
Because the government put a lot of money into the
Yes.
public sector, because of the fact of the you are not getting paid because of the COVID. There is no any work there for, if you own a fast food restaurant, then there is no customers there. So in order to support them, the government put in the money, and now the government is struggling with it, and they want to get money out of it again. So they have increased the taxes. One of our client, as we are working providing the consulting and the bookkeeping service to major clients, so one of the clients, they had like issue, right? There was like there were like a lot of employees, and there was issue like the employees were unsure about how their tax were deducted, Like they were like unsure, like they were promised to get paid like X amount of money, but when they had the money deposited in their bank, it was like for the higher on earning individuals, the tax was so high, right? So they were unsure, like why my tax, why this much of amount is being deducted. So as an employee, is it their responsibility, or is it their, maybe like duty, or is it some kind of the knowledge they must have regarding how the taxes is deducted for a salary tax employee in Nepal? So how you take on this?
Okay. Generally, you know, or you would know that there is an element of tax. For example, up to X thousand or X 100,000 a year,
You
there is
get
1% tax.
1% Nepali.
That is obvious, that is clear. If anything goes above that, there is a different limit, different band. I don't think it is difficult to understand. But if somebody doesn't understand, they can quickly check. I mentioned earlier, in the same way as you check the invoice,
Yeah.
you can check your payslip.
Payslip.
There, you get some ideas. If you don't understand, you can do a quickie calculation. If you don't understand, you can go and ask employer. Nothing wrong with that. And employer would be and should be able to explain that to you as to how that works.
Exactly.
So that is not going to be too difficult. And especially it is going to be on a monthly basis, the TDS, tax deducted source. It is one of the simplest way of having taxed on the income, especially the individual who are on a regular salary basis.
Exactly.
When it comes to the business, on the same point, for example, now you're working as a self-employed. You do have now separate responsibilities. First thing, remember, it is a business. Even if you are a one-man band, a freelancer, it is a business. Whether you provide goods or services, it is a business. When it is a business, all the points that we discussed earlier about the financial literacy, equally important for the business, if not even more. Now come to the record keeping, there is a more robust requirement which we touched on earlier as well. And that will have the direct implication on your tax. When you make profit, you need to pay tax. But you need to pay tax in cash, right? Sometimes what happens is you do have a profit, but you do not have cash.
You are short of cash.
So I always say that cash is a fact. Cash is a king, but profit is a concept. I always say this. Obviously, the concept includes a number of other factors, the technical and other factors, but there is always a potential gap. And that gap will be fulfilled by having some additional thought, additional awareness of the responsibility of making the tax payment in future.
In terms of the tax knowledge that an individual or general public must have regarding what sort of taxes they are paying.
Well, general knowledge is always useful,
Okay.
but not everybody would be expected to be having a sort of a better or the expert type
So
of
maybe
knowledge.
At this point of time, the role of a expert tax consultant, or maybe like the role of someone who have been working in taxes and things comes to play. He or she might provide like insights regarding, okay, because
This is the Shresh Finance Podcast, and this is brought to you by ACCA. ACCA चाहिँ एउटा ग्लोबल प्रोफेसनल बडी हो जस अन्तर्गत धेरै कोर्सहरू पढाइन्छ। त्यसमध्ये ACCA एउटा प्रोफेसनल अकाउन्टेन्सी कोर्स हो। सो इफ यु आर लुकिङ अ करियर इन फाइनेन्स, बिजनेस एन्ड अकाउन्टिङ, यु क्यान थिङ्क अबाउट ACCA। यो युके बेस्ड चार्टर्ड एकाउन्टेन्सी कोर्स हो र यो पढ्नको लागि युके नै जानुपर्ने भन्ने चाहिँ छैन। हाम्रो अर्को स्पोन्सर हुनुहुन्छ सिड फाइनेन्सियल एकाडेमी, एन्ड इट्स अ प्लाटिनियम approved learning partner for ACCA program in Nepal. We would like to thank ACCA and Seed Financial Academy for sponsoring our project, the Shresh Finance Podcast. Now, let's get right into the podcast.
see, like I have seen examples, like just because they were not aware about some of the benefits given by the government regarding their taxes, and they out to pay a lot of taxes. If they have been the scenario that they know that they can get some deduction in this year, maybe because of the COVID thing, they have like some sort of 20% deduction on their final tax paying. If they let's say like they don't know about it, and they went to pay the taxes after the year it finishes, the offer, or what you say, the benefit, and they are now paying the more taxes. So I mean to say, like being a business owning a business, or maybe on an individual level also, you must be updated with the taxation policy, or maybe like the tax offer that the government gives to you, isn't it?
Well, let me break this down into a small bites and
Okay,
pieces.
sure.
Number one, when a business grows, obviously you need to have a professional pool of part-time, at least a part-time. You won't expect to know everything. You are a business person, you rather want to know more about your business.
How to grow it.
How to grow it, how to expand it. You are good at something, you are not expected to be good at everything.
Exactly.
So different people would be good or better at different things. So when time comes, you would obviously consider hiring someone who has a better, not only tax, also the finance skill, managing finance, accounting skills, probably the auditing after some point, and all that. Talking about those bits and pieces, if you are an employee, generally I would expect employer would know that or ought to have known that and passed over that knowledge, that information to employees generally. As an individual, as a curiosity, you can always sort of search around that and you have some ideas, right? Come to, for example, going back to COVID, in UK government offered a lot of tax breaks to businesses and individuals. There they made the information very public, very comfortably available. You can go to their website and you can find out. And there are even numbers, emails that you can contact and get that information.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine. You can do it. But when you're doing yourself, there are likely to be making mistakes. Therefore, if you go to the professional, there may be a small fee, but things would work in great favor for you without errors. Come bigger businesses, there are even more chances that you're making mistakes in terms of taxes, because there are a lot of things that you will understand it. Therefore, you go to the tax professionals. You have been studying ACCA, so you have been studying tax paper. You know there are a lot of reliefs available.
Exactly.
And some of the reliefs are complex. And professional, formal consideration is required in terms of not only calculation, also the advice, claiming, administration side of it, and the rest of it. People, clients, businesses, to go to the professional with the correct skill set. You don't always go to the expensive ones, but reasonably good ones. You would know it. And that will actually work in your favor, because you wouldn't know everything. You would know about your business, which is good. And that's what you need to be focusing on. We know about tax, so we'll be focusing on clients' tax planning, management, compliance, execution, and the rest of it, and the whole cycle. So everybody would do basically their business. They are good at. Thank you.
So, I want to talk more about like you working as a professional, right? You looking at your profile and the things you have done, you clearly mention is like you look after the tax planning, the strategic planning for the high net worth individual and the ultra.
That's right.
One. So can you please clarify on like what sorts of work you do and your experience working with clients? Maybe like that might sound like knowledge to us and the audience as well, like how you work in a more professional way, meeting the expectation of the clients. Because why I invited you to the podcast was because like we thought of creating a financial literacy impact in the society, and tax is also one part of it, right? Since you have an experience working in like Western countries as well, I would like to ask you about your experience and like how you deal with meeting up the client expectation, because you are working to save the client's money, the taxable one. So could you there are some memories down the line you want to explore?
Let me take you back to a very basics. My respectful mom, she's a very, very devotee of Lord Krishna.
Okay.
She thinks God gives us everything: food, water, air, oxygen, everything else. She firmly believes that. I'm a youngest son in the family. I don't necessarily believe everything that she believes in terms of God. I do borrow something from there. The way my mom treats the God on her everyday thing, she prays at least 3 times a day. She deals with that as if that's everything. She really has a very great faith in it, which I respect. I don't necessarily agree to everything, but I borrow one thing from that. In the way my mom thinks Lord Krishna does for her and for us, her family around and everything, I take exactly the same way that my client does.
And we can really, like, clients are God.
Exactly. And I
Customers.
truly treat my customer, my client as God. I came to your studio this morning hiring a cab. I could only hire that cab because my client pays my bill. Let's not talk too big. Let's not be too philosophical here. I do my very best for my clients. I am a tax advisor. First thing, that's the only thing I know. Well, maybe I could do something else as well. But if I don't have my tax work, I will be redundant tomorrow. And in a week time, in a month time, I'll probably die hungry and my family. I would have nothing. That's the only thing I know I can do. Yeah. So, obviously, I'll be trying to do my best for my client, as if truly like a God. But the good thing about this is, when I treat like a God, I do expect prasad at the same level, fees at the same level. So when I'm working, I absolutely do my very best. I take every piece of work as like a pride. You went to a college, right? Where do you go to college? CETA, I think.
CTA.
You go there to study.
ACC.
Yeah? And you pay the fee. Right? You pay the fee. You have a huge respect to your lecturers, to the management, to your college. You come here, stress, well done. You have clients, you service them. Right? You work. Now, think about it. When you have a client gives you work. Yeah? That means you have the work experience. You have built your skills. You have built your professionalism. And you send the bill as well. So they pay your bill. Right? And from that, you have an element of comfort, element of confidence, and in future, from word of mouth and the other means, you get more clients, means more work, means more experience, means more skills, means more professionalism, means more money. Now, what you need to do with that client? First thing, acknowledge it. Second, respect. And it comes along service. Now, when I say service, it has a multiple facet. Service, beginning with technical. First, get your advice right. It has to be appropriate in the context. It can't be wrong, forget it.
Exactly.
It can't even be less appropriate in the context. And if you talk about developed countries, Europe and UK, there is a very, very sort of formal, professional, ethical, as well as swing and swearing culture. If you get your advice not wrong, even slightly less appropriate in the given context, well, they will tempt to sort of sue you. And you may need to pay as much as 15 times the fee they paid you in compensation.
It's like the penalty.
Yeah, compensation basically.
Compensation.
And that could even be more. Yeah. So that means you are offering the first thing, what we call is guaranteed advice. Number one. That's about technical. Number two, service. Every time client, for example, ask you or email you, send you some information, what do? First thing you acknowledge, so-and-so, thank you for your email, I received your information for your tax return, etc., or the advice. I'll be working on it tomorrow or the next week. I'll get back further by mid next week or the week after, etc. So you're basically having a regular, constant, worthy communication with client. And if you need something additional information, you ask not a month later. you try and ask is sooner. By the way, I have been going through your information. Thank you for that. But I found this particular piece of information is missing there. Or did you miss it? Or this didn't exist for this year, for example. It is your duties and responsibilities to correctly ask. Right tone, correct information. Obviously, communication plays an important, huge part around it. Different people would have different way to communicate. The dialects, the language. Remember, especially when I'm working internationally, I would like to borrow some of the experience from there. Don't forget, only a small proportion of the people globally speaks English as native. The bulk of the people don't speak English as native. So you don't expect that. And I do deal with clients from different parts of the world, as I said. Couple of years back, I was dealing with a ridiculously wealthy client from Bahrain. He did have few properties in a prime location in London, and I was advising and also doing the tax return for him. And one of the things I didn't find in the information sent is that the loan, the mortgage statement.
Okay.
And obviously you expect that because it's a very, very expensive property, and there are few in a very prime location in central London. And I asked him, by the way, do you have a mortgage loan statement? He said, Sam, what are you talking about? What is that? What loan? And he said, the loan you may have taken to buy the property. And he said to me, no, Sam, we're rich. We're rich people. We don't take loan. We don't have loan. And I said, okay, it sounds rude, right? But I took it perfectly positively. Go back to my mom. What she does? She respects, she prays Lord Krishna. Same I do for my client. I said, okay, sorry, thank you so much. I think I understand, and so on. And I completed the rest. But if I would have asked the same question to an Englishman, the gentleman would have replied to me saying, oh, thank you, Sam. Thank God I don't have loan against that property. It's been paid off. Oh, I'm so relieved. See, the communication, see the language, see the culture, the dialects. These will make huge difference. If you would have reacted to that Bahrain guy, the way he has answered, the things would have been completely wrong. So you always need to treat correctly with equal respect and acknowledgement.
Okay.
So you don't just go by the words. And in fact, after some time, that gentleman turns out to be my good friend. He was even offering me a job. He did have a big corporate liaison office in Singapore. Along with the passage of time, you will be able to build that gradually. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very beautiful thing. Like you respect the client thing, because the client's money, the income you generate from client is paying off your bills, and especially for like dealing with international clients, you need to address the working culture as well. Very important, right? Okay, that's very the thing that everyone admires and wish to have it. So since all the works you have done so far, the decades of experience working as an international tax consultant, having the firm in the London and here in Nepal as well, the thing behind the scene, it's obviously one of the beautiful course that I pursued and you have pursued is ACCA, right? So taking a look back at this point of time, what you wanna say regarding this course, maybe like to the members out there, to the students out there, because like there are a good amount of audience on this podcast who are belonging to the ACCA, maybe to the chartered accountancy course, especially the professional ones, right? So do you have anything that you wanna talk about? Then we can talk on that.
This is a wow topic. Again, I want to relate this back to my own experience. Many years back, goes really many years. As I said, I did my master's degree first and then did the ACCA. I was relatively a good student even when I was doing my university. I was my first boy in my college. I was relatively good technically in terms of accounts, finance, and the rest of it. I even used to be a lecturer on that area. When I went to London, I try and find obviously the professional job in the accountancy firm. I really struggled for some time. I just couldn't find. I did try many places. I sent my CV, God knows, to hundreds of places. I'm truly saying hundreds of places. I do have a big folder in my computer system with just CVs going back, God knows whatever many years now. I was just starting ACCA at the time. I couldn't get any job anywhere.
Okay.
Everybody says, oh wow, good bachelor's degree, master's degree, you have got 90 whatever plus in accountancy, oh wow, well done, and didn't get a job. But I carried on doing ACCA, and towards the end of second part, when I say end of second part means skills level at the moment, towards the end of that, I tried again and again and again. And I finally got my first professional job in an accountancy firm called general practice, like we call audit here.
It was in UK.
In UK, correct. Now I can feel it. I did have my bachelor's and master's degree. I couldn't sell it. But with my part qualified ACCA, even not part qualified, I still have a couple of papers to go, I think, to complete my skills level equivalent. I got my first practice job, the accounting job, where I carried on working for about a year or so. I was really struggling because I needed to make money, go to the college fee and all that. And I still needed to finish my final level, the advanced level, what you call is strategic professional level. So I was working like part-time around 3 or 4 days a week and going at least to college 2 days a week and finishing the ACCA. After that first job, obviously the first one was really hard, very struggling. I felt like I was banging my head against the wall. After that first step in and with the completion of my ACCA, gladly I have to say that I never needed to look back. In fact, every subsequent jobs I changed, I'm very glad and proud to say, Ankit, thank you for asking this, that I always have had more than one job offer on my hand that I can weigh up one against the other and go for the better one that I want to go to. And that worked very well, and that has been working even up to now. So at least I have one thing that I can proudly say that I have on my belt, which I can globally sell no matter wherever I go. And that is ACCA. Sometimes there may be limitation. Remember, such a body, such a qualification that runs over more than 170 countries around the same time with the same or similar standard and the quality is a great thing. Think about it. No one could do it. I really praise, admire about it. I always mention this example. I know my one junior brother, like my village friend, young man in Chitwan, a small village called Majui, where I originally came from. There is no other facilities. And that boy, he doesn't have any resources even to be able to come to Kathmandu to study ACCA. And he has been studying ACCA from there. He has already completed his first 3 papers, which are fantastic flying colors. Studying from there. Imagine. ACCA made that possible. And every time actually I think about this example, actually it made me emotional. I want to try and detach that, but it really makes me emotional. Something that I was not able to do from Nepal some years back from Kathmandu. Now a young man, a young boy can do it from a small village in Chitwan called Majui. There is no other resources. Forget the ACCA college, which is not available in Chitwan at all at the moment, but he has been doing from there. See, that is the logistic, and that is the equivalence that he can obtain from there. And actually his grandmom was asking me the other day of the huge number. Think about 500,000 students globally across 170 countries. There may be some issues, but look at the global picture. You and I are here because of ACCA.
Exactly.
Right? I was in another part of the world. Certainly happened to be here in Nepal for a small part of the time.
We met.
And and now here in this Sanep office. Well done. That is the beauty of ACCA. And I would recommend very wholeheartedly. There is nothing to pretend, nothing to hide. The element of flexibility that ACCA provides in terms of the papers, in terms of the study, is great. Not compromising the quality. That's the good thing about it. I mentioned this earlier. I think when I was doing my ACCA, I needed to do 3 papers at a time, the final 3 papers, and if I fail one with, I think, less than 40% marks or something,
aggregate level, if you fail, then
I needed to do all those exams again. Thankfully, I didn't have to do that. I managed to pass all first time.
This is good.
But now you can do on a modular basis, 1 paper at a time.
At a time.
But I never say it's now easier. I never say it's now easier. Not because I was doing 3 papers at a time and passing 3 papers, I was anyway better than what you guys are doing now, 1 paper at a time. And it's maintaining the quality.
Exactly.
Just a simple example, very recently from June 2023, ACCA has revised the advanced tax papers, partly the syllabus, partly the testing techniques and all that, and introduced 20% the professional marks within the exam. Now you can see the ACCA is making the syllabus up to date, standardizing, and making it well marketable, sellable, and up to the need of current financial
Yeah,
market.
and also for the world which we are observing, which we are in living, is like it's all global, right? You might be staying in some corner of your room and you might be working for a client in maybe US, maybe in Japan, right? And I think the ACCA being recognized in more than 181 countries, that adds the beauty to it, and it actually help a person to become a professional in terms of the knowledge they have, the skills they have, and yeah, obviously the, I would say, a bird eye view, looking from a like a level up that
Exactly.
would quantify their the actions they do.
And I always like the logistic, obviously,
Exactly.
the logistic behind it. Think about the computer-based exams. Now, I don't have to ask about the level of computer skills for ACCA student. By the time they would have completed their ACCA qualification, they would have sufficiently good amount of IT skills as well, because there are a lot of computer-based exams at the moment, right? And that is making the person already sellable. Already sellable, not only technically, but also practically and IT wise.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's the beauty of it. And whoever currently pursuing ACCA as a career, as a study, ACCA students, the affiliates, finalists, members, I have few things to add here. If you may allow me, please, Ankit.
Sure.
Number 1, don't wait until completing part 2 or skills level or final level or turning the age 21, 22 or something. You try and begin working as early as possible, because working early means challenges. Something that I'm going to tell you and someone may not like it, but it is fact. I do go for brutal honesty than the polite hypocrisy. That's what I say. And I love it, to be honest. Here, rather than you work as a full-time and not doing anything and completing the ACCA in 3 years, I would want you to work and complete the ACCA in 4 years, for an example. Someone may say, 4 years too long than 3 years. Yes, but comes along, and in longer term, you are the winner who has done 4 years and experience than no experience and completing in 3 years. Very recently, actually, one boy from Rajasthan, young man, he contacted me very recently for the career advice, for the job advice. He has completed his ACCA around the age of 21, 22. Good first time passes, well done, but he was struggling for a job. And I said, have you done anything? He said, I haven't done. Have you done any accounting work? No. Have you done any work? No. I feel at the age of 22 and not doing anything is not right. I know you have passed your exam, well done, but that's one bit. Passing exam gives you 2 things. One, the knowledge you require. 2, the certification you require. That will work to get onto the first ladder. But when you grow along, what you need to add on to is the experience, is the skills. And when I say skills, I do not mean just the directly applicable skills. There are some transferable skills as well. If you learn to make a cup of tea at your home, you will use that skills in the office as well.
Exactly.
And that is useful. When a client comes in, you can offer tea or coffee. That's a good thing to begin with. If you have managed something at home, you could manage in the office as well.
Exactly.
If you have done some work in your school or college as volunteer, that will equally help too. So the experience, one, directly applicable, what we call is go and hit the ground running. Two, the directly transferable skills, not directly applicable, but you can use it, and any other experience. So I would actually recommend all my ACCA fraternity, all my buddies, that don't wait until you're saying that, oh, I want to pass the exam first, oh, I'm young, I'm 18 or 19. Don't wait for that. Begin working as early as possible. If you don't get the accounting job, do some admin job. That's perfectly fine. If you don't get any other job, maybe collect few kids and begin teaching as a private tutor for 1 hour a day. Anything could be useful. Experience matter. So what I call is, on one side, go for your capacity building. And that will include technical, general, communication more importantly, and the rest of it. Plus, what I call is organized, structured skills.
Okay.
In short, in my office, I keep saying, no mess. Everybody would love structure. Means your work, your workings, your files, your desk, your office, your notes, your reports, your email. All these are part of it.
Okay.
And also, be professional, ethical. There are challenges, but we need to be keeping this up.
Okay.
And keep polishing your skills. All the basic skills, not just the technical. And obviously the good thing about ACCA and any other professional qualification is that after completion of your exam, after you becoming a member, obviously you need to be having your CPD, continuous professional development. And it's not just the formalities. It is required in order to keep yourself having up, being more sellable, and getting yourself to the next level. And that will work.
Okay.
Being technically competent is important, as well as the other skills that you need. And that will take you to the next level. And it's a difficult choice, but the choice of studying ACCA is a great choice. It goes without saying. This is my experience, and we can see all around. And I'm very glad that this is a very wider fraternity, locally and globally. I do have ACCA from friends from one corner of the world to the another corner.
Yeah.
And wherever I go, I can actually go and say hello. And that's the beauty of it.
It add like identity to you. Maybe like when you are talking with some gentleman, like in the other country who have like who is a professional accountant, and you say like you are from ACCA, then like they know you.
Oh yeah, I don't even need to actually introduce extra in terms of the professional skills, in terms of the professional licensing and all that.
Exactly.
I don't even have to add something extra. I did mention earlier that I did have my good bachelor's and master's degree. I was struggling to sell it. Obviously, it goes back.
Yeah.
Not the case anymore. Probably we do have far better bachelor's and master's degree now than many years back in Nepal. But with ACCA, I didn't have any further question. And that's the good thing about it.
To add up, like if you ask me like my personal opinion regarding ACCA, the only thing, since like I have been working like for quite few years in Nepal, and before that I've been fortunate enough to go to Australia to have my further studies, right, the bachelor's one, and I know the working culture in Australia as well, and know about UK as well from like friends and everything. And the thing that I actually want, not only it's not possible of me as one person only, but I would say the whole community, whatever the thing we learn about the ethics and being professional, if we apply to the Nepalese working culture pattern as well, it would add up it would be, I think, the good thing that we would like to rethink. We would like to put an effort into it, because regarding the corporate governance things and everything, if this all are sorted out, then slowly you know, the economy would be good as well. And regarding the work culture thing, it would be more professional, more corporate thing. That's what I figured it out, because ACCA is not only being like, you know, the crunching the number stuffs like that. It's beyond that, and I'm always been an advocate and admirer for the ACCA qualification. So I am happy, and like I wish, and I wish like all of the community would have some kind of, you know, the professional responsibility to put in the working culture in place in more ethical and more professionally.
Yeah.
That's what I figured it out.
That's absolutely agreeable. The central is professionalism and the ethics.
Exactly, it's the core of the ACCA.
Yeah, the core. And you'll see within the syllabus there are a number of different papers where you need to study ethics, as well as there is ethical module itself.
EPSM we call it.
And that will equip you with what you need to apply. Obviously it takes times, there is a context issues maybe, but you know eventually what you need to do. And as a professional, you attempt to apply them in real life. And overall, it will build the transparency, as you mentioned, the corporate governance, which I'm very big fan of, and it will gradually work. Obviously, country by country, depending on the different practice, there may be some issues to make it fully applicable, but you gradually attempt it.
Because we come to know, like in terms of Nepal, like around like there are more than around like maybe 60 or I might be wrong with the actual number, but more than 50% of the economy is informal one. That means like they may not pay the taxes because they are not under the roof of the taxes, but it shouldn't be the case, right? Tax should be distributed equally, and there should not be more informal sectors. And maybe like the professional accountants, maybe like ACCA, you know, the chartered accountant, they might help them. The thing is like they might not have knowledge regarding how to keep the books in. I feel like keeping up the books and keeping up the books in compliance with the government regulation is two different things, right? So maybe like the thing that we can address, the thing that we can help is like keeping up their books according to the compliance, so that they pay the taxes in time. There are no sort of, you know, the anxiety to pay the tax liability, the penalties and everything. So we, being a professional as well, it feels our moral responsibility and duty to do so to aware the public about the thing they need to do. And especially if you are a business owner, then you must pay the taxes.
And thank you so much for arranging this, Ankit, and inviting me. And thank you, my production friends and buddies, and thank you for your time and putting all this together so smoothly.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being the part of this. So, and as we have mentioned earlier in our off the year talks also, like we might do some session on more on tax literacy thing. So we might plan out in coming days to come,
that
right?
we could probably do in sort of a few months or a year or so time, more specific to the tax session. Maybe it would be more technical, more intense tax session around.
Sure.
We could certainly consider and work on that. Thank you for it.
As we are about to the end of the podcast, I would like to thank first of all the ACCA, our the prime sponsor for this podcast, because we thought like from our workings we find we need to create some podcast or some literacy program that would help especially targeting the Nepalese community for being financially literate. So we talk with our dear ACCA, and they were happy to sponsor this podcast. So without them it would not have been possible. So there is also some a gift from the ACCA for you.
Oh wow, thank you ACCA Nepal. Thank you, Ravin sir.
So this is something you might need to note it down.
Oh wow, thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, this is with the ACCA logo. Here you go. Thank you ACCA Nepal, and thank you Ankit.
And the
Okay.
college I studied ACCA. It has now become the platinum approved for ACCA learning in Nepal. So from it's Seed Financial Academy, you know it, right?
Oh, I do know Sid. Yeah, I do know some friends there. That's one more. Okay, thank you. It looks like
Small-
I do need extra bag.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I
Thank
might
you.
come a little bit
That's
closer.
fine. Thank you so much. I certainly need an extra bag
Yeah,
when I
we
go
have-
back
we have-
home.
we have managed it for that.
Thank you.
So also because because this wanted to create an impactful literacy program, so I consulted with my close networks, and one of them was my own relatives, and he has his own business of that too, the incense stick.
Okay.
So it's they have a gift for you as well.
Okay.
The name of the
Wow.
company is Business
Oh wow.
Baby.
Thank you so
And
much. I
maybe
think
your mother
my
would
mom would love it.
it.
You know, Mom, that's for you, and that's great. My mom would actually get more closer to Lord Krishna with that.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And also there are some gift vouchers, and
Oh wow.
let's start with
Even more.
yeah even more. So this is dental park gift voucher for you for like smiling
Oh wow.
for the beautiful smile.
Thank you. Here you go.
You can redeem this
Dental
voucher.
Park. Thank you.
It's in Bauddha, so closer
But,
to the place
I
you
would
live
be
at.
able to manage. So I need to ring them, and
You get the free
Oh,
service as mentioned in the voucher.
thank
right?
you.
Also, how is your taste regarding Japanese food?
Well, probably not great, but I can go and try.
So you can try it at the Japanese takoyaki solo, and you have 2 gift voucher for you and your friend. to-
Where is that?
It's just maybe like 2 kilometers from here. It's in Panimandal,
Oh,
Lalitpur.
Bani Mandal. I know Bani Mandal.
Okay.
Ah,
So
thank you
can
so
might-
much. Thank you.
No worries.
Oh, so I'm having the flavor of Japanese food as
yeah,
well.
takoyaki,
Ah.
and it's his friend's
Oh,
restaurant.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and as we talk about like the need of a professional photograph for you in that will help in your career as well, maybe in like for the Toastmaster club you may do it, for the events you would like to do, you need a professional photograph for sure. So here is a 50% discount voucher for the photograph shoot. And
I think you mentioned. Thank you.
yeah, it's the Visions Nepal, and they have arranged all the podcasts and everything.
Thank you so
for
much.
them.
Thank you guys. Wow.
So this
This
is
is definitely the first thing I'm going to use. And you touched on Toastmaster. Thank you so much. I'm a very proud member of Toastmaster. My home club is Chitwan Landmark Toastmaster Club in Chitwan. I'm the charter member of that. And the first thing I'm going to do is take the professional photography and replace my profile photo there in the Toastmaster fraternity.
because
Thank
it,
you
it
so much.
definitely adds value, right? Even
Yeah,
like in
I
the
know.
LinkedIn and everything.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Great. And thank you for arranging and putting all this together. It's certainly a very wonderful experience together.
There is one more from our company.
Stress.
Yeah. So we established. It's been already 6-7 months. Formally, we established the company. We mainly we are developing like industry-based financial and business counseling to the clients. So as a part of our we say like CSR, we thought like to build an ecosystem. Why not we literate the public as well to make sure that they need a financial consulting or the business counseling from the experts, and we have a team of ACCAs and chartered accountants as well who will deliver the service that comes around the accounts, finance, and business. And here is we would say a token of love from for your
Thank you so much.
beautiful time to
I
us.
think let's take a picture.